Senator Ron Johnson was on Tucker Carlson's program to talk about Dr. Fauci, so you know it's gonna be great. And here is what Ron Johnson had to say about the leadership against COVID currently serving the US.
The question you have to ask about Tony Fauci, and quite honestly, the other people in our healthcare agencies, is have their policy prescriptions, have they worked? We have more than 700,000 people dead now. We spent trillions of dollars. The human toll, the economic devastation. We're at each other's throats now with these divisive mandates that are going to destroy our healthcare system, destroy our military readiness. Their policy prescriptions have been a miserable failure, and the biggest blunder of all, they ignored early treatment.
Okay, so I want to thank the senator for one thing, actually acknowledged that over 700,000 people have died. In fact, it's 703,000 that have actually been like confirmed. We know that that's an underestimate, whether it's 10%, 20%, 30%, we don't know. But Brett, what we had there was Senator Ron Johnson saying, look, a lot of people have died. Now we must come up with a way to explain how that could have happened. Is it that we didn't do enough? That makes me briefly uncomfortable. Perhaps it's because we did anything. And that idea was so mind-shattering, so world-changing that I want to focus on Tucker Carlson's reaction in real time to Ron Johnson saying that.
We have more than 700,000 people dead now. We spent trillions.
Laughed and pointed out it being a good point. Now everything he does is, like it's not genuine or whatever, Brett. But he really did like that line of thought that perhaps we shouldn't have done the things that we did.
What did you do? First of all, what did he do? It's so messed up. It is hilarious to watch people contort their message to whatever is convenient for them from a policy perspective, convenient for them from a political perspective, not only in how they can message on TV, but what they now need to say. So that is so in the face of history, in the face of reality, that it appeases an audience that has even turned on Donald Trump when he mentions anything about vaccines. It is so easy he basically is the guy in the back who is drunk, who needs a designated driver saying, like, I can take that corner faster. That's what he's doing. You're a wuss bag, you're in the wheel. Like that's what he's trying to do. Everything when anyone thinks about how best to handle a deadly disease, which he has already admitted in his own logic is wildly deadly. For you to get to a point as a politician who is not a moron, where the best course of action, according to your calculation, and you may be right politically, is to say that the best thing to do in handling a deadly disease is nothing.
Yep.
Like it is this weird phenomenon of Republican politicians where if you ask them what to do, and there's plenty of people with plenty of political theory behind them who have genuine responses to this, but it's hilarious when you hear it. It's like, well, when I become president as a Republican, I'm gonna do nothing. I'm going to get rid of this part of my responsibilities, this part of my responsibilities. Everyone's on their own.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing. It is so baffling.
Yeah, to me, maybe you disagree. To me, like look in real time all along the way, in varying ways, they said, let's not do anything. That to me is worse because it's prescriptive. It is potentially influencing a world that could be better than it will be if we listen to them. So it's substantively worse what they've already done. But it seems it's more maddening what we just saw. It's one thing to be like, let's not do anything. But when you acknowledge that it was a failure, to say we shouldn't have done what we did do, I think that is more maddening to me. Especially when, like it's what he just said, the fact that we shouldn't have done what we did, we shouldn't have listened to Fauci, despite the 700,000 deaths, that is bad enough. But do you remember what Trump said like a week and a half ago? He said, I did the opposite of whatever Fauci said. He said, Fauci gave me advice, I didn't listen to him, I did the opposite. But Ron Johnson doesn't have that thrown back in his face. So should we have not done the stuff that Trump wanted? Because apparently Trump never listened to Fauci, he did his own thing. But you're saying we shouldn't have even done that. But you also say that it was a failure, even though Trump is saying he was in charge and he got what he wanted. the whole thing is just maddening. And really fast before we comment more, that was Ron Johnson saying that. And then we showed that Tucker liked it. Tucker also effectively echoed it, as you'll see here.
I think you make a series of great points, but the first one is just kind of indelible. You've had almost 700,000 people die. Is there any evidence that any of these measures, which really have reshaped the country completely, have saved a huge number of lives? I mean, if we had just ignored it, would many more than 700,000 have died? Sincere question.
One of my favorite, in a dark way, Tuckerisms is the sincere question. I'm being honest here. I'm being real. No, you're not. Literally nothing. But that was an exercise thing. He deploys that. He's not being honest. Except a little bit in his motivations there. That's true. He's saying, is there any evidence that anything we did saved lives? He was very broad and general. So what did we do? We did lockdowns. We encouraged masks. We deployed treatments. We set up triage units. We developed vaccines. We deployed vaccines. Who is he to know whether any of that saved a single life? He doesn't know, and he doesn't have time to bring on guests to ask because he's filling his time with people like Ron Johnson.
I mean, okay, so the first part of it is Tucker saying serious question. In a court of law, when he tries to make this defense that everything's entertaining and nothing really is him reporting and he doesn't mean anything, when that's his legal defense, when he is that his safety word, serious question? Everything else is just this weird kinky like life and death choke sex with America. Is that what's happening? Because there is a real chance that more people will die. He's asking the question, do you think that medicine helps?
Yeah. He doesn't know. Open question. Hey, here's the thing.
And it just proves that his whole show is a bedtime story, sometimes scary, sometimes soothing, to tell all the good little conservatives to stay asleep, not go to sleep.
Yeah. And I will simply add on that.
I'm gonna sneeze.
He presents it as a hypothetical. It's a nonsensical, moronic, baby-brained hypothetical because we know that medicine helps with sickness. But it's also not purely a hypothetical. It doesn't need to be. So when COVID first hit, we did stuff, right? You remember, we're still doing some of it. We're not together. So we did that stuff. And then we dialed it back. What happened? I don't know. You remember how November went? You remember how December and January went? It was pretty bad. And then we started doing stuff again because of how bad it was. And what happened? Did it get better? Yeah, it got better. And then we lightened up. What happened? These are not hypotheticals. We've been through multiple cycles of this already. But anyway, I do want to play just one more bit of video because Ron Johnson, look, we're going to be sort of co-opting what he says here, but he does make a good point, if not the point that he intends to make.
These people will never admit they were wrong, and they've got the power to make sure that they're never proven wrong. There's something very sinister going on here, Tucker, and it has cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people their lives.
If only he were actually identifying what Fox and the Republican Party have done, because he's exactly right. They'll never admit that they're wrong, and it has cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of lives because of the misinformation, and it's incredibly sinister. On the one side, you have a Republican politician, a senator. On the other, you have the most watched face in conservative media, and they have combined forces over a year and a half to convince you not to do anything, and they really tried to undermine the effort in every way that they could, and they largely succeeded. And a lot of people died as a result of it. And rather than ever acknowledge that, or more importantly, allow their audiences to ever acknowledge that, they are now saying, no, it wasn't us or you. You didn't cause this. It was the people who took it seriously, the people who wore masks. They were the true villains all along.
Yeah, and so many of their arguments along the way are contradictory. The idea that like certain pharmaceutical companies are good and other pharmaceutical companies are bad, while still saying pharmaceutical companies are bad, so I shouldn't take this vaccine. Now please take ivermectin. All the way to his stupid argument that like we're gonna make ourselves less militarily ready because we're mandating vaccines among soldiers. We already do that and have since literally George Washington, when it was way more likely that you were gonna die from the vaccine. So that doesn't make sense. Lindsey Graham, we got to watch this. Is going to happen later on TYT today. But Lindsey Graham, while talking to Trump people, there's video of him just in so much pain trying to win back the audience. And his argument is, I think you should take the vaccine, and they boo him and boo him. And he said, I don't think it's necessarily constitutional to have vaccine mandates. Dudes, the entire concept that it is bad that you're putting military lives, according to your logic, you're putting military lives at risk. That's what the military is about, first of all.
Yeah.
They're putting their lives at risk. The question is needfully or needlessly. And when this is a proven vaccine that at least doesn't hurt you, and definitely at this point shows that 96% of the people in the hospital from this are unvaccinated, it seems like the person needlessly putting lives at risk is the Republican politicians who suck a bunch of farts.
Got me back at the end there.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.